Now, I see an attempt to try and drive ODM to become a purely regional and if not a Luo party. The elements of the party from other regions are fairly quiet when we have, this civil war within the party. And therefore, when you do that analysis, if we choose to work with Kenya Kwanza or UDA, most likely ODM is going to be a small party. It will be pushed back into Luo Nyanza, basically. And we must be very conscious of that effort. And you can see some pronouncements which make it look like ODM is purely a regional party, is a national party. And I think if we are not very careful, we may be driven in that direction.
Looking forward to 2027, the ODM party has what some will say 3 options on the table. The party may continue to work with President Ruto under revised terms. This could mean ODM supporting UDA, especially in President Ruto's re-election, or even UDA supporting ODM. And you've had calls for President Ruto to join the ODM party. The second option on the table will be you reuniting with your former partners. That includes Kalonzo Musyoka's Wiper, Eugene Omalo's DAP-K, as well as Martha Karua's PLP, and bolster the opposition chances of making President Ruto a one-term president. And the third option is going it all alone, presenting a candidate and rivaling both the united opposition as well as the government, the incumbent president. Which of these 3 options is best for ODM?
I think the option of working with the united opposition, that has not been in the works at all. And I must say that we should be clear about it. What we are talking about is what is on the table that has been pushed through negotiation and operations, as it were, that now has made ODM have certain relationship with Kenya Kwanza or the UDA party. What worries me from a historical analysis is that both at independence, where the colonial government tried to create regional parties. Mboya had the National People's Conventions in Nairobi. Jaramogi had a party purely for the Nyanza region. Muliro had another party. They were trying to regionalize and ethnicize political movements. And post-independence, there was also that attempt when Jaramogi resigned from KANU, and he crossed the floor with quite a number of members of parliament. In fact, it could have been a majority of members of parliament. And Mboya came with a constitutional amendment that required any member crossing the floor having to resign and going back to the constituency for a fresh mandate, a fresh election, as it were. Now, that had the effect of ethnicizing the Kenya People's Union. It had support nationally, but by the operation of the politics of the day as driven by KANU at the time, it became a regional and if not a tribal party. Now, Moi also tried to do the same when we had this big national movement forward. He brought everything on the table to enable political parties to emerge out of Ford. Matiba went his way, Kibaki went his way, and we had all these regional parties. Now, I think what Raila did out of the realization that, regional parties could not be an answer to the demands of Kenyans, he strived to build a truly national party, which is ODM. And ODM is found more or less in every region. Now, I see an attempt to try and drive ODM to become a purely regional and if not a Luo party. The elements of the party from other regions are fairly quiet when we have, this civil war within the party. And therefore, when you do that analysis, if we choose to work with Kenya Kwanza or UDA, most likely ODM is going to be a small party. It will be pushed back into Luo Nyanza, basically. And we must be very conscious of that effort. And you can see some pronouncements which make it look like ODM is purely a regional party. It is a national party. And I think if we are not very careful, we may be driven in that direction. I think we have about 10 or 12 months which we can spend in building ODM as a national party, reap from the legacy of Raila Amolo Odinga, and thereafter, talk about coalitions, talking about working together with other political formations. But now what is in the agenda is that we should work with the UDA government. And I think that the effect of that is that we may grow into a smaller and a smaller party. I think we should talk as parties which are strong. And so far, ODM still remains the most popular party in Kenya. And that would mean that when talking to UDA, we are the big brother in the room. And that must be taken into consideration.
Yeah.
Ati munafuata William Ruto watu ya ODM. William Ruto amenunua ODM, imeuzwa na Junet na Wanga. Tayari wamechukua deposit. Yeah?
M can now reveal details of a closed-door political meeting that sources say could fundamentally reshape the Orange Democratic Movement and Kenya's opposition politics. President William Ruto is reported to have secretly met senior ODM leaders in Transmara on Christmas Day in talks insiders say were aimed at weakening ODM from within and eventually folding it into the ruling United Democratic Alliance ahead of 2027. Our reporter Haman Kamariki with the details.
According to multiple sources within ODM and government, the 2-hour meeting brought together a select group of senior ODM figures. Those present included party leader Oburu Oginga, CS Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, CS Opiyo Wandayi, Suna East Member of Parliament Junet Mohammed, Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wenga, and Mombasa Governor Abdulsamad Nasir. Those who were absent were ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, Embakasi Member of Parliament Babu Owino, Raila Odinga's daughter Winnie Odinga, Deputy Party Leader Godfrey Osoti, and Siaya Governor James Orengo. Leaders who have publicly opposed closer ties with the Kenya Kwanza administration. Sources say their goose was cooked during the meeting.
Na wengine ambao wanatembea nasi mchana lakini usiku wanajaribu kuuza hii chama. Haiwezekani. ODM was not born in a boardroom.
Baba alituambia tukiwa wote ya kwamba we must keep the identity of this party called ODM as a separate entity from any other.
Sources who spoke to KTN on condition of anonymity claimed that the meeting was not about cooperation, but about a structured plan to dismantle ODM as an independent political force.
Zamani nilikuwa nasikia wakisema ODM unasema mko tayari. Kweli mko tayari ama mko tayari nyinyi? ODM. ODM.
The plan, according to sources, involves funding a snap ODM grassroots and national elections, installing a more compliant party leadership, and then convening a national delegates conference to approve the agreement with UDA by March next year.
Na sisi UDA na Kenya Kwanza tuko tayari. Kwa hivyo tujipange, tuunde serikali, tupeleke Kenya first world.
If successful, the move would effectively absorb ODM's numbers into President William Ruto's re-election strategy for 2027. The sources further claim that financial inducements were discussed during the meeting. The alleged plan has intensified internal resistance within ODM. At the coast ODM Deputy Party Leader Abdulswamad Nasir publicly confirmed that the party is considering formal coalition talks with President William Ruto's administration.
Agenda iwe ni kupeana ruhusa chama cha ODM kianze mazungumzo ya ubana na kuweza kuweka uwazi na wale ambao kwamba ni wa chama cha Rais Ruto UDA, tukubaliane.
Neither ODM nor State House has responded to the allegations, but as the 2027 election cycle approaches, the battle for ODM's soul appears to have begun, raising questions about whether the party will survive as an opposition force or is slowly dismantled from within. Haman Kamariki, KTN.
Or in Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard, it is a story about Night of Long Knives. That is the headline that will be carrying Kenya's bold newspaper tomorrow. And the Orange Democratic Movement is hurtling towards a historic rupture after secret talks at President William Ruto's Kilgoris Ranch set in motion a plan to bind the party to UDA or purge those who resist. A looming delegates conference designed to endorse pre-election pact and eject dissenters has split ODM between leaders eager to trade the party's vast grassroots machinery for state power and others warning that the movement could be extinguished. That is the story that you'll be getting tomorrow in Kenya's bold newspaper and many other stories. Be sure to get yourself a copy of Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard.
Hii mambo ya kwa serikali, hata wakati wa Kenyatta watu walikuwa kwa serikali, Wajaluo walikuwa huko, Waluhya walikuwa huko. Ile serikali ambayo najua tulikuwa ndani yake kisheria na kikatiba ilikuwa the Grand Coalition Government, ambapo sahihi ya Raila ilikuwa nafanya kazi kama kiongozi ya chama. Ili kuwa waziri lazima Raila angeweka sahihi ama alikuwa anaweka sahihi. Lakini hii broad based hatuna mamlaka ndani ya broad based. Hatuna nguvu. Wale watu wako kwa broad based wako huko kupitia Rais Ruto. Saa yote akipenda kwa toa nje anaanza kufanya hivyo mara moja. So broad-based is not a constitutional and legal entity. It is not. Watu wasidanganywe. Broad-based is not a constitutional and legal entity. It is an arrangement, ukarabati. Na katika hiyo ukarabati, mtu ambaye aliomba usaidizi, sisi wananchi, Ruto ndiye aliomba usaidizi, akisema ya kwamba jamani nafa, mje mnisaidie.